welcome to Behind the Opinion, where we get some insight and context to our regular guests. Today I have Mike on.
Hello.
So Mike, let's go ahead and get right into it. What is the first game you can recall playing, and how did that affect your enthusiasm?
Well, the very first game I can remember playing was actually, it's a classic. It's Super Mario Brothers. I didn't own a system myself until the N64 much later in life, but my uncle had an NES system in his basement. So every time we would go to visit the family every summer as a child, I would visit my favorite family member, which was the NES system in the basement.
Right.
So I can remember playing a bunch of Super Mario Brothers down there to the point where to this day, I can still remember that opening theme song. I think we all can at this point. But I was instantly hooked. Like, I loved everything about it. It was fun. It was something I could do for hours. It never felt repetitive. And it was something I looked forward to every summer.
So was this the kind of uncle who had a whole bunch of Nintendo games, or was he the kind of uncle who's like, hey, this thing's popular, I should get one?
He's kind of a closet nerd. He's the sheriff of county. I didn't realize that he was a closet nerd until much later in life.
Gotcha.
Like, he plays the crap out of Battlefield. Like, is apparently like, what's the one? Because I don't even play it. 2149, the online one.
Oh, I should. 1940? No. I don't know, but I know what you're saying.
Right, yeah, where only the tryhards play. He apparently plays that constantly. I had no idea. He's a huge PC gamer. And looking back on it, it turns out he had all the early systems. He had the NES, the SNES. He even had a Genesis, if I remember right. He, of course, had an N64, and then just had everything else on up through.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just a closet gamer. Like, out in the real world, he's got to be super tough guy, jock, sheriff guy, and then when he goes home, he plays video games.
Well, it's interesting. It takes all types, I guess. So, how did that affect your enthusiasm for gaming, though? Do you feel like that really lit a fire under you to play more games, or was that just a formative thing?
I think it was a spark that led me down that path, because that was when I first started. After playing that a couple of times over, and every time after we would go, I would always beg my parents, can we get one? Can we get one? Can we get one? And finally, later on, a couple years later, my parents did get me a mobile gaming system, mostly to keep me quiet in the car, Sega Game Gear. And that was my first personal system that I owned. And again, it was great. It was a great way for me to spend my time, particularly in the car, where my life before then was just tragic. It was so sad, just staring out the windows at flat land of the Midwest as we drove across Kansas and realizing why people committed murder.
Yes, I know that most children look out on the plains of the Midwest and think homicide. So I'm glad at the very least that the first game you can recall playing helped mitigate that. So appreciate it. But what would you say your favorite genre of game is?
Well, at this point, I would certainly say my favorite genre's got to be FPS games. RPG is a very close second, but ultimately I got to pick FPS. Now, with RPG being a close second, I would say probably those combo games that have come out in the last, I'd say, decade or so, been some of my favorites. The original Destiny, Mass Effect. I can remember the first time playing, and I will have to bleep this, but the first time playing, I can remember the first time I shot someone, got a headshot, I was like, the hell yes, this is amazing. And just immediately started running and gunning. Like, run and gun games, I loved it. It was just, I am Lord of Fire.
So, is this your favorite genre because of violence, I guess?
In a way, yes, I suppose. Now, that is not to say that video games cause violence. I think we're confusing causation and correlation there. I think it's actually the other way around. It is our love of violence that has influenced the type of games that we make, if I look at humanity. So, yes, I really enjoy it. And specifically what I like about FPSs is that you can enjoy the story, but you can also enjoy the multiplayer. There's definitely a social aspect there. Like, even after, say, on Call of Duty or on Halo, you finish the main storyline, you can still get months, sometimes even years of play out of it just on multiplayer. And it's great. It's not only a great value for what you purchased, but it's a great way to keep in contact with friends. I can remember for the longest time playing Gears of War 3, connected up to like my brother out in Jefferson City and Ryan on the other side of town. Like, it was a great way to keep friends together.
So do you think the social aspect is more beneficial from a keeping in connection perspective, or do you actually think there's some value to interacting with strangers online?
I would say there's also a value to interacting with strangers because we've made some friends through our connections online. The strongest one I can think of is actually my buddy Ryan and I met. His gamer tag is Gizmo. He played Destiny with us, ran a bunch of raids with us, and Ryan and Gizmo have actually become quite good friends out in IRL, in real life. They hang out regularly. They, go out gaming. They go and play Pokemon Go together. Like, It's really become a real friendship that started playing raid battles online. It was great.
Oh, that's delightful. I'm glad to hear that nobody ended up in a ditch. So
Right.
That's great to hear. Good stories can happen. But what would you say your favorite game is? It doesn't necessarily have to be restrained by your favorite genre, but what would you say your favorite game is?
Well, it does happen to fall within my favorite genre as Halo 3.
Okay.
It's definitely by far and away my favorite game. I can still remember, it's the first game that I ever got, like, the extended connections, the extended media for.
Mm-hmm.
I got that special edition Xbox 360, the Master Chief one. And I was really sad that I wasn't able to get the special edition that came with the helmet. Actually, I think you have it in here somewhere.
It's right there in the corner.
Yes, I've considered stealing it several times.
That's fine.
But yeah, it's the first one where I got so into the game I actually bought what would you call that?
Oh, that is I wouldn't call it, that was not the collector's edition. It was considered like the ultimate collector. Basically, are you willing to shill out this much money? So while you consider that, I'm going to look up what they called that. They might have just called it the Master Chief edition. Probably not the helmet edition. But go ahead.
It was the first game that I was able to hook up to a high-def TV, and I can remember the opening cinematics. It was just crazy beautiful. Like, that was something that was always great about the Halo games. They really put the effort into the artwork. It was, like, the scene where they're coming down in over the top of the Halo, and you can see just, like, the beautiful landscape inside of it. It was absolutely phenomenal. I fell in love with that instantly, and the grand music they got playing in the background is great. It's an epic story, and you can feel that you're getting ready to get started. And along with that, I also really enjoyed Halo 3 because I think among the Halo games, which already had great multiplayer, it had the best. The only game I can think of really on the 360 platform that had better multiplayer than Halo 3 would be Modern Warfare 2.
Now, just as a quick aside, I don't know why it took us this long to figure it out. Legendary Edition.
Legendary Edition.
Legend.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now that you say it out loud.
Mm-hmm. Now, Halo 3, that's a very specific Halo for a series that has, 6 games in it right now? I am including ODST.
It is ODST. We talked about this. It is ODST. They are Orbital Drop Shock Troopers. Yes, that's where Buck got started, and then he became a Spartan 4 later. I will go into this. The Imperium of Man has spread across the galaxy.
You are mixing streams now. Anyways, so we've talked extensively about the Halo franchise before, but what makes the third one your favorite? What makes it better than the second one, other than it had an ending, or better than the, fourth one? I played 2 and 3.
Okay. Well, the reason I liked it more than 1 is, to be quite honest, 1 was a lot harder than the ones that came later, specifically because you didn't even get shield regen. Mm-hmm. It was a much more difficult game. Now, you did feel a lot more accomplished, I would say, when you actually finished it, but it was certainly a much more difficult game, and they were still trying to figure out their controls early on. So it didn't flow nearly as well. I liked Halo 2, but like you said, it really didn't feel like story-wise it went anywhere. Mm-hmm. It wasn't enough of a change for me to really get into it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't own Halo 2 personally. Halo 1 and Halo 2 I didn't own personally. These are also games that I got through family members and was able to play. Actually, the original Halo I played on PC, not on a system. So it wasn't until Halo 3 when I was actually able to play it on my own system, and it was a Halo system. So I fanboyed hard immediately.
Did you buy into the alternate reality game associated with Halo 3?
The alternate reality game, I'm not 100% on what you're talking about. So, no.
Okay. There was an alternate reality. First off, you are familiar with alternate reality games?
Yes.
Okay. There was a website called I Love Bees. No, not ringing any bells?
None at all.
So the idea behind it, and this is a decade old at this point, making it not only a dated reference, but an incredibly early ARG, where the website I Love Bees was being used as kind of a front for some AI trying to send information about Spartan information back into the past or something.
Interesting.
Yeah, ARGs are a high-risk, high-reward situation, and it was a little ahead of its time, but neither here nor there. I hope that's something that you'll look into just because a fascinating bit of history there.
Oh, yeah, certainly. I enjoy learning everything I can about the world and the history behind the game, so that is something I'll look into. I'm actually very surprised I hadn't heard of it before.
Actually, 1 second. I'm going to go ahead. Upon doing a little more research, turns out I Love Bees is for Halo 2, and there was a different ARG for Halo 3 called Iris. Really, what jumped out at me more than anything was the fact it was called I Love Bees. What it actually brought to the lore, I couldn't tell you. It was just called I Love Bees. And I love dogs dressed as bees, so I thought maybe that's what it involved. I was very wrong, though. But neither here nor there. So, past that, what would you say your most significant game memory is, if you had to pick one?
Ooh. Okay, so relating directly to a gaming event, the first time I ever booted up Mario 64.
Okay.
When they do that tight screenshot on Mario, and you're like, all right, it's a Mario game, and then the screen pans out and you're actually in a 3D world.
Huh.
Like, that was the first time I had ever seen a fully 3D game. It was awesome. Now, looking back on it, obviously, as games have progressed, it was actually a very small open world concept, but back then it was phenomenal.
Right.
And the fact that I could do the different events in whatever order I wanted, like it just dropped me in a land and I could do the stars in whatever order I wanted. I loved everything about it. I burnt so much time in that game just exploring and seeing all the different things and trying to figure out shortcuts, like if you dropped the baby penguin off the side.
That's not really a shortcut. That's just being a dick.
Well, it's
a shortcut to hell. Does that count for anything?
But yeah, I would say my most significant directly relating to gaming memory is Mario 64. The first time I booted it up, the first time I played, I can still see in my mind's eye, like the screens. I can still remember sitting, it was actually in the back room of our military housing in Nebraska. And every time I think about it, I go right back to that room. It's a phenomenal memory. It's very nostalgic. You can still almost kind of smell the musty wood because we had a really old wooden futon back there that I think had mold on it or something.
Okay. That's very specific.
Right, yeah. It's a very strongly tied memory for me.
Okay, and now that was one that you wanted to tie very specifically to gaming. Did you have something else you wanted to bring up?
Yes, I also have a very awesome / awful gaming associated memory that happened a little while later involving Mario Kart.
Uh-oh.
Now, Mario Kart 64, my brothers and I played together constantly.
Right.
My parents were very big on getting games that had strong multiplayer components, which I think is another reason why I'm so into multiplayer aspects of games. Because she wanted us to do things together. We're each 2 years apart, so we're close enough that when we were younger, we could do a lot of stuff together. So a lot of it was 3-player gaming. And Mario Kart 64 was a big one for us. Well, 3 or 4 player, anything where you could get a lot of people in.
Right.
So Mario Kart 64 was a very big game for us. We played it a lot. Plus, it was just a great game.
Right.
Now, the problem with that is we were also all very, very competitive. And there was one specific thing where my brother and I were doing, I think it was the Star Cup. Yeah, I'm fairly certain it was the Star Cup on the highest CC rating.
Now, 150 or mirror? It's semantics, but...
Probably just 150 if I'm remembering right.
Okay.
But anyway, so the little bastard was being a screen looker, and what we do with screen lookers is we wrap our cord from our controller around their neck and try to choke them out while yelling, "You're a goddamn screen looker."
Is that what we do?
That is what we do. And my mother came in on that as I am trying to destroy my brother for being a screen looker. And he's laughing at me because he defeated me and he knows that's why I'm furious. And his laughing is only just making me more furious. Again, video games do not cause violence.
No, I'd say violent people cause violence.
Violent people cause violence. But yes, that was a phenomenal memory because looking back on it, it makes me laugh and it still makes him laugh. And my mother got so furious at us, she actually banned us from the console for like 2 months. It was interesting in that it kind of bonded my brother and I because we agreed that in the future, because we both hated being banned from the N64 so much, we agreed that in the future, if something like that happened, we would both lie.
Gotcha. About what? The violence?
Yes, about how it happened. For example, there was a later story where we were wrestling and I body slammed him through a coffee table.
Was this also Mario Kart related?
No, this was just brothers being brothers.
Gotcha. It's just brothers being brothers. Power bomb. Now, I don't think it's directly related, but it wouldn't surprise me if the amount of Mario Kart related chokings have gone down since they've moved to wireless controllers. Ever since the GameCube to the Wii, not nearly as many chokings.
Yes. And with the wireless controllers, with them being expensive as they are, you want to throw them, but then you're like, that's going to cost me like $60.
And that's how you know a game frustrated you, because I can think of a few instances in my recent memory where I've chucked my controller into my couch, because while I'm angry, you're right. They're expensive. So I have to be truly furious before I even risk it. And even after it connects with the back of my couch, I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. That was a foolish mistake.
Exactly. So, with time comes wisdom. That and the fact that my parents are no longer paying for my gaming accessories. So if I break them, that's my money.
I'm about to say, that is also the wisdom, is that money is money and does not grow on trees.
Yes.
So would you say that you're still as aggressively competitive?
Yes and no. I don't get into the, what would you call that, the metagaming aspect, the achievements and everything. I never really understood that. Like, the achievements that I earn as I'm playing, great, awesome. I achieved a thing and there's a marker of that. Like when you defeat the game, it's like, hey, you earned an achievement for finishing the game. Awesome. Stands as a testament to the fact that I did play this game and did finish it. I'm not just BSing people. But all those weird ones that's like, go and collect these 60 things or whatever, that's just... Unless the game is gorgeous, like if you're playing Uncharted, which, by the way, I started.
The first one?
Yes.
Ugh. It can get kind of rough.
Yes. I'm about a fifth of the way through it right now, but yeah, it can get a little bit rough. But the game, the remastered edition, is very pretty. And so that one, I don't mind so much looking around for the different things. Or another one I can remember where I actually did like 100% the game was Black Flag.
Oh.
That, because again, it was just gorgeous, and they actually did a really good job of making all those weird collecting missions actually fun. Unlike the ones it's just, like, grid out a giant pattern on this thing, and then just walk, and then turn, and then walk back if you actually want to collect all the pieces, and it's just so frustrating. I really hate it. But I went down a weird path here talking about how much I hate achievements.
No, that's important. This is actually something I do want to touch on in a later episode. I brought it up before. Metagaming is something I definitely want to discuss, both the rise and semi-fall, because I feel like you don't see nearly the culture behind it you used to, but it's an interesting topic nonetheless. And I'm glad you brought it up, because this is something I definitely want to gather the individuals about to talk about. But continue.
Okay, so to that piece, no. Not terribly competitive on that end.
Not terribly competing about the words either.
But when you do get to the multiplayer aspect, going back to the FPS gaming, your COD, your Halo, your Destiny multiplayer, still very, very aggressive, very, very competitive. I have maybe at 1 or 2 points said phrases like...
There's going to be a lot of bleeping involved with that one.
Technically, all those words are sayable. Maybe just the phrase may not be okay.
There's at least one word that should probably be in there.
Yeah, I've said some... you get really into the heinous parts of your memory when you're playing those kinds of games. Like, you're very much all in your id. So, you say all the things that come to mind. Like, I will destroy you. I will lay waste to your lands. Behold, this is the field in which I grow my and see that it is barren.
I'm about to say, I will stomp on your throat until you can taste your own spinal fluid, that kind of thing. Yeah, I played World of Warcraft for a minute.
Yeah, okay, so you're familiar. Yeah, you definitely get into that mindset. You get very, very aggressive playing. But again, I think it's very cathartic, especially doing it in that kind of mindset where the entire idea is for it to be kind of over the top and insane. Like, that adds a fun aspect to it that helps you to really let go of those aggressions and annoyances of the day in a fun and safe environment.
And that's what's important. As long as you're not the guy who either calls the local police department to swat the house, or as long as you're not the guy who decides to take matters into his own hands.
A quick note on the swatting. Accept that you're not that good. Like, the people who do the swatting, it's always because they're getting their frickin' ass kicked.
Oh. All right.
Like,
yeah, I don't...
Like, I always accepted, like, there was times getting into, particularly I can remember in Modern Warfare, where when you get up into the higher levels, I would get destroyed in some games. And yes, it's insanely frustrating, but that just means you gotta get better. You gotta figure out new tactics. Maybe watch them and see how they're playing and, ape some of their ideas. Do something. But,
be better. Don't be a felon.
Yeah, get good, son. Jesus. Like, I don't understand that mindset of, I suck at a game, so I'm going to commit a felony. Like, that doesn't... I don't get it. Like, either get better at the game or accept that you suck. Sucks to suck, man.
Yeah. Anyway. So, I guess this is a segue. Why do you enjoy talking about games?
Well, I think because it's been such a strong piece of my life for so long, there's a definite nostalgia aspect to it. And it's fun to share that with friends that have similar memories, especially when you can connect to the same games. Like, we can remember both playing Super Mario Brothers for the first time or the first time playing Zelda. Being able to share those experiences, I think, is really awesome. And to that same end, I enjoy the culture because a lot of times when you meet gamers, you have a lot of other things in common as well, because it's kind of a more, I want to say holistic. I think that's the best word I can think of. Aspect of people's lives. Like, a lot of people that are into gaming are also into the same kind of TV shows and the same kind of music to an extent. And you can find a lot of connections there, which actually leads me to my last piece of why I enjoy talking about this kind of stuff, particularly in this kind of a setting, is it leads me towards games that I would not have otherwise thought of, heard about, or tried. Perfect example for me would be Inside.
Oh yeah. Have you haven't started that yet, have you?
I haven't. But that's a game I never even would have really given a second thought about. I might have read an article about it and that's it. If it wasn't for you guys talking it up have really kind of reinforced the notion for me that I need to play this game. Also, the Uncharted games. The first time I tried those, I was like, this is boring. This is just basically an interactive movie. And then going back and talking with you guys about it and hearing your memories about how much you loved it and how awesome the story actually is, went back and decided to play it. On the negative side of that, you guys talking up The Last of Us and how it's so brilliant and I need to play this game and it's the greatest thing ever. I tried it and it's awful.
Well, okay, I would like to provide a mild counterpoint on that. I personally always believe I talked up the narrative aspect of it with a note of a slow start up until you're through the first season. I will not deny that it takes some time for it to really start spinning its wheels up, which isn't to say it takes forever. But the people who were absolutely gushing over it, even when I replayed the HD version, the original time I played it, it was with somebody who was watching me play, so they were kind of putting their 2 cents in while they played it. But there is a certain point that you will never see that it really starts having the emotional impact. And at this point, it's over 5 years old. So the intro where you watch your daughter die, yeah, that sucks real bad. But they set a high bar there that they don't get back to for about 3 hours. And for that type of gameplay, it's too long for a lot of people.
Yeah, I lost interest within the first hour, and to the extent where I doubt I will ever go back to it.
That's fine. You got other stuff to play, like you have to wrap up Infamous.
Yeah, about that. I tried that again too, and I got frustrated again. That last boss fight it's long. There's so many phases.
And there's no checkpoints.
No. Nope. Every time I die on like the second or third phase and I got to start over and I'm just like, screw this.
Done.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll try you again in another 6 months.
Yeah. Well, that gives you more time to start up Bloodborne, right?
Eventually, I started Uncharted and I'm going to do all 4 of those.
All 4 or 5?
I'm not going to do the one with the ladies.
You should do.
No, I will eventually, but I'm not going to do that as part of the straight series. Okay. I want to do the 4 I've already owned, and then I'll probably switch to Bloodborne.
Okay.
I'm trying not to buy any more PS4 games until I get through my backlog, because I've still got a decent I've got 5 games. I've got the 4. Yeah, I've got the 4 Uncharted to get through and Bloodborne to get through. And a Bloodborne by itself, if I understand it, will be about as long as the other 4 games.
Well, it depends how good you are, scrub.
Yeah, that'll also be a problem.
Yeah, I make sure to talk to me when you get to Father Gascan. He's the first mandatory boss, and he'll make you rage quit if you don't know. If you've just been running around smacking things, it took me 3 hours to beat him the first time. Boss fights take more like 4 minutes. So, just a conversation to bear in mind.
Sounds like a steep learning curve right there.
Oh my god. But it's awesome when you get there. But I digress. Speaking of your personal future of gaming, what is your hope for the general future of gaming?
Well, in this aspect, I think I would lean more towards the RPG side. Particularly in recent times, we've seen as these open world concepts really grow. I mean, Breath of the Wild, the open world, it's gigantic.
Yes.
And I haven't even gotten to play that yet, but I'm still looking forward to it so much. And some other games that spring to mind personally, GTA. Beautiful open world concept where you can just, if you want to just be crazy, you can go Trevor it and just blow stuff up and kill hookers. Or you can do main story missions, or you can do racing stuff. Like, it's a phenomenal second reality to exist in. And I think for me, what I really want to see is kind of a Ready Player One situation. Not the dystopian future for mankind aspect. Not so much that.
That's not the best.
No, that's not the greatest. But the notion that you could exist entirely within an alternate reality. So
you would have taken the blue pill, sorry. The red pill? I think it was
the red pill was the one that took you to the real world and made you Neo. And I definitely still would have taken the red pill because that basically makes you like an admin in the game.
I don't think that made him Neo, though.
No. Well, that his username or whatever. But I mean specifically, like, all of them kind of become admins in the game. They can bend the rules. So, and being an admin's always fun. You can kind of turn on God mode. Now, permanently, no, it's not fun. You still need some rules in order for the game to be interesting, which we could go into some different philosophical concepts on that, but I won't go down that road.
Okay.
I really enjoyed, specifically, you were talking about World of Warcraft.
Yes.
I got so into that. What?
Sorry, finish.
No, I love World of Warcraft. Now, I have since moved on because it absorbed too much of my life, and I realized that. And especially, I think the moment I realized I needed to move on was when I realized I had spent an entire weekend farming in a game.
God, I'm getting flashbacks.
Yeah, like, that was when I had reached a point where I had done so much in the game that the only thing I had left to do was to earn titles. So I was earning the title of farmer. And to do that, I had to collect so many vegetables and blah, 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 blah. And I had spent darn near 14 hours over this weekend of my life just farming inside of a fake world. And that's when I decided I needed to be done. But up until that point, it's very cool to have that sense of power. You know, everybody looks for that to an extent. And to be that guy who random people will run up to you whenever you're in Orgrimmar and be like, hey, can you help us out with this? Because they can see all your titles and your levels and all of your kick-ass gear and everything. And they realize that you're someone who, kind of relating back to the achievements thing, you've done a lot within the game. You are a subject matter expert. You're a guy to come to. You're the guy to rely on. And that's a good feeling.
Is it a good feeling for you?
Yes, certainly. To have reached that point where you can help others get through the game. Like, the first time that I ever did a speed run for a buddy to help him get through some lower level stuff to collect some things to help him get up to my level, that felt great. Like, I was able to help someone out, and while I was helping someone out, I got to look like a badass because I was just tearing through enemies left and right. Like, stand back, small man, while I will wah, and 7 of them drop.
Stab. It's funny you mention that, and I'll just quick aside about this. That was actually what made me decide to stop playing World of Warcraft, because I had done everything except the top tier rating. So whenever I needed to fill up some time, I would go and just try to grind up my rep. And this was back in the days, I don't know if it's changed since then, where you had to go and farm a certain item and turn it into like the guild master to get your reputation up. And I had enough mounts because of that I was able to get, at the time, the semi-rare mount of Albino Drake. And I'm sitting there riding around on my Albino Drake, and somebody PM'd me, directly messaged me, and goes, wow, that's super cool. How'd you get that? I'm like, oh my God, these people are actually looking up to me for this time I've wasted. I need to finish getting my undergrad degree.
Oh, come on. That was easy.
My CS degree was not easy.
Oh. Psychology was easy.
Okay. But yeah, no, that was the point where I went, no. Actually, that point coupled with when one of my guild members told me I needed to, I could skip my CS homework and finish the raid. That's when I'm like, these people do not see eye to eye with me. But that's neither here nor there. I'm excited to hear that you're looking forward to the expansive RPG aspects. It's interesting that you compared Breath of the Wild with Grand Theft Auto, because a lot of people have said Breath of the Wild, what it did well compared with Grand Theft Auto was Breath of the Wild had an open world where you wanted to do stuff. Whereas in Grand Theft Auto, there's a lot of things that you'll never touch. Like, who's going to do the yoga in GTA 5?
That's a fair point. I think they did a better job. And that kind of relates to what I was talking about with it gets better every couple of iterations. Like, every time, like Skyrim's another phenomenal example. Up until the building of Skyrim, you had kind of seen a stagnation in RPGs. They'd figured out a formula that they liked, and they were sticking with it. And then Skyrim came out, and the map was so much larger, and there was so much more to do than any game that had come before it. To my recollection, there may have been another one out there that, like, the hardcore nerds will be like, do you not remember blah, 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 blah.
Make sure to push your glasses up. Actually.
Yes. actually, you may recall such and such whatever that came out in Japanese format only on the blah, blah, blah system.
I like your nasally tone. You're really killing this.
Right? But anyway, so as far as I can remember, Skyrim kind of changed the game on that, particularly with the size, expansiveness, and the amount of things that you could do. Mm-hmm. And then we moved forward, and then GTA came out. Not as expansive as Skyrim, but took a very different take on it. Mm-hmm. Particularly, I liked the fact that with, I believe it was it GTA 5 where you changed between
three protagonists.
Yeah. And again, a very different change to the way that they told the story. So they took a familiar idea and they changed it up a bit. It got a little bit, it was cooler. You got to play kind of as like an id, an ego, and a super ego if you look at the overarching aspects of their characters. Mm-hmm. And then you move forward and you get to Breath of the Wild, where again, they just blew up the world and made it so much
literally
huger.
And figuratively.
Yeah. They made the world gigantic, gave you so much to do, and still managed to keep, like you said, all of it interesting. You wanted to do everything that was in that gigantic world.
You really did.
Yeah. So if they keep down that path, I think the things that we'll see when you and I are in our 40s and 50s may feel like a true alternate reality to us.
We'll get there.
Yes, someday we will get there. And I hope before my time is over, we'll get to that point where you can just download my memory into the game and I'll be a permanent NPC.
I am there with you, bud. Yeah. But anyways, was there anything else you'd like to add here, Mike?
I think that's everything for me.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
This has been Behind the Opinion with Mike.